Thank you for joining us again in our webinar, Understanding the Modern Workforce to Connect with Them More Effectively. So I can see a couple of participants from Malaysia, Vietnam, and the Philippines. So thank you again for choosing to join us today. So we're very much excited to share with you some of the insights that we've collected over the past few years. And we're pretty sure that these are some of the insights that you can also use to redefine your strategies as we go through the next few months. Now, let me give you a quick background as well about your panel. So on the left side of your screen, you'll be able to see me giving you guys a walkthrough around all of the results that we will be sharing. And then at the bottom of your host video, you'll also see your resources list. So everything that we will be talking about today would be readily available for you guys to download. And then we also have additional information for everyone so that you get to know more about TalentView after the webinar. And then at the bottom of your screen, so please try to use it. You have your Q&A session. We encourage you to share your comments, share your feedback if there are any, and we will try our best to respond to all of those things. And then next would be on the right side of your panel, you'll be able to see from there the feedback portion. So after this webinar, we encourage everyone to share their feedback and let us know how we did today so that we can improve the overall experience of our webinar for you guys that we do every Wednesday. And then most importantly, please make sure to give me a 5 as the presenter today. We will also be giving away a free book from our very own CEO, Ange Vera, and we will be collecting information of those who were randomly selected. Now, in terms of my background, I've been working in the HR industry for more than 10 years already. So the first half of it has been spent working closely with recruitment and organizational development leaders. So a lot of times I collaborate with them in terms of recruiting the best talents and making sure that your leaders would already have the right competencies before they get promoted to a certain role. So when we talk about competencies and values, that's something that I've been working on at least for the first 5 years of my career. And then the last 5 years has been spent with TalentView. We've been doing a lot of research around why employees stay, why employees join the organization, and why they leave. So these are some of the questions that we will be wrestling with today so that you get to understand your talents better and you can redefine your strategies to attract talents and retain them in your respective organizations. And then just a very quick background, TalentView is an employer branding firm, and our main mission is to help employers get noticed and loved. So we do this in three areas. Strategy, we work closely with HR leaders in terms of understanding their engagement levels and how they could potentially attract talents better. And then we also talk about design. So once you already have the strategies in place, our next step is to put everything to life. So we talk about your social media activations, video productions, and even web development and content creation. And after that, we also have a lot of partners who are helping us advance our mission. Recently, we've partnered with Workplace by Facebook, and this time our focus really is on enhancing employee communication and collaboration, knowing that a lot of us are now working remotely. So these are some of the partners that we have, and then we also have our clients. We've worked with a couple of brands that are known in the ASEAN region, like Grab, you have AXA. AXA is joining us as well today. You have Aboitiz. We have Rebisco over there and PruLife. So these are some of the brands that we're working with across Malaysia, Vietnam, and the Philippines. Now, in terms of agenda, there are like 3 main questions that we want to answer for you guys. First part would be, what does the modern workforce value the most? Next would be, what are the best channels to engage with them? And which do they use to apply? And then lastly would be, how do we build our employee value propositions knowing that we're all working from home? So this is something that we normally get from our clients. Is it possible for us to create our EVPs even if we're all working remotely? The quick answer to that is yes. And we've prepared a couple of things for you guys to take away for today. So I know it's a webinar, but we will be giving you homeworks that you can work with your team members. And I think this is also the best time for you to revisit your engagement results and employee value propositions if you already have one. So I recognize that some of you might not have anything established in place. That's totally fine. I think this session would be for you. But if, let's say, you're an organization who already has an existing EVP, then I think this would also be a good time to revisit how you can redefine these further so that you can adjust those strategies more effectively as you try to attract more talents and engage talents in the workplace. Now, just a heads up, I have 2 dogs. I have 2 cats as well. If you hear them in the background, please just ignore them. We're all working from home, and I hope you understand. Now, to get to know you guys a bit better, I just have a very quick question. When we talk about your main consideration before joining your current organization, what are those considerations for you? So we've prepared a quick poll. I'll give you guys like 10 seconds to choose some of like the top 2 or 3 choices that you considered before signing the job offer. Or if, let's say, some of you guys have been working for the past like 5-10 years, I think this will be a good time to joggle your memory and just select like the top 2 or 3 factors in the poll that you guys would consider before signing the job offer or before you join your respective organizations. So I'll give you 10 seconds. So while we're waiting, we have a couple of organizations here. We have ABS-CBN, we have Rebisco, one of our clients, Unitar International from Malaysia. Thank you for joining us today. Then let's see. Let's see the results. So some of you guys selected performance management. Some of you guys have selected growth and development. Work environment and culture at the top at 63.6%. We also have reputation, mission, and values. Compensation and benefits. Wow. So I think some of the things that you guys are sharing now are somehow aligned to what I'm going to be talking about in the next few slides. So if you're going to remember, the top 3 that you guys have shared would be compensation and benefits, reputation and mission and vision. We also have work environment and culture as the top 3, along with growth and development. So these are the top 4, for at least for the audience that we have today. Now, when we talk about the report that we're going to be discussing for today, we actually have a healthy mix of levels across the different industries and levels. A total of 1,129 survey respondents completed the survey for this year. But along the slides that I will be sharing, we've also, I would say, collected more than 4,500 survey respondents for you guys that we will be sharing for today. So if you notice, there's a healthy mix. And then our goal is very simple. It's really about understanding what talents value the most. So before they sign the job offer or before they hit apply, before they even consider you as a place of work, what are the things running in their minds to consider you as a place of work? And then next would be, we also try to understand what's the satisfaction level of these candidates and what are the potential reasons for them to leave. So these are your employer branding attributes. These are the essentially the typical factors that we use to measure engagement and the employer brand strength of an organization. So if you haven't downloaded the report yet on your side panel, then you can do so. We will be discussing the results as we go on through the slides. So I encourage you guys to download the white paper, or you can take a screenshot so you can toggle back and forth between On24 or the description of the employer branding survey. So I'll skip on to the next one. Now, let's just take a quick step back. When we talk about the different trends in the employer branding space that's shaping the market. So on the left side of your screen, you will be able to see from there the ranking of the employer brand attribute. On the upper part would be the respective year when it has been conducted. So if you'd notice, a lot of the talents that we have asked have shared that leadership, work environment, compensation and benefits, growth and development are the most important factors for them. So year on year, these are the things that we're seeing to be very important for your target talents. And when we ask them to rank these attributes consistently, these are the factors that we're seeing to be at the top of the list. And then coming from the survey earlier, you guys have shared mission, vision, and values, growth and development, compensation and benefits, and then we also talk about leadership. So I think the only thing that's missing here would be the mission, vision, and values of the organization. As you guys have shared, roughly around 54% of the audience that they have shared. That, you know, that's primarily important for you guys. Now, when we put the focus on the year 2020, performance management is actually taking the spotlight next to compensation and benefits. So this is very interesting. When we did our survey, after candidates have ranked the different attributes that we have, we also asked them about why they rank performance management very highly. And it all boils down to the simple things like, is my performance being measured objectively at work? Am I able to collaborate with my managers or superiors to create a realistic and achievable goal? And then lastly, they wanted to understand better how their performance is being used as a way for them to gain promotion. So those three areas. So when we talk about the importance of performance management, these are the typical areas that your target talents would normally discuss. Now, during this pandemic, we would normally recommend a few things. Now that we've taken a step back, we would encourage you as well to do the same. When we talk about the consistent attributes here that we're seeing year on year, obviously, leadership, work environment, and compensation and benefits belong to the top three almost year on year. And when we talk about leadership, talents have shared consistently that they want to work closely with inspiring leaders. It's something that everyone is expecting across the business. And then we also talk about leaders who can adjust their training style depending on the capabilities of the talents that they're working with. So that's number one. And especially during this time, we would normally see that a lot of the businesses out there would rise and fall because of its leadership. So a lot of the strategic decision needs to be made, and all of these decisions are being made by leaders in the business. And then next, a lot of us are now working from home. You know, the very place that we all consider as our sanctuary is also now converted into a workplace. So the main issue for businesses now is to, one, how would they make sure that employees feel connected even if we're all working apart? That's number one. Number two, given this situation, it doesn't necessarily mean that the values that we stand for, along with our mission, vision, would be set aside. It only means that this is an opportunity to make it stronger. And then next, or lastly, would be work-life balance. A lot of the talents that we have or that we're trying to attract would normally say that work-life balance is important. But now, how do we juggle the two, knowing that our home and work has been all merged into one? And then lastly would be compensation and benefits. We wouldn't really recommend for you guys to be putting this at the center when we talk about employee value propositions, but our main, I would say, recommendation is for you guys to remain competitive. So talents are becoming so much smarter now. There's so much available information as well when we talk about salary benchmarks. So we encourage you guys to continuously review this to attract top talents, knowing that they are now becoming smarter and they would normally, I would say, review job offers and compare them easily before considering your place of work. So these are the top three things that we're seeing to be very consistent year on year for the past 5 years. So leadership, work environment, compensation and benefits, growth and development. And the new entrant for this year would be for performance management. So next, when we talk about the actual survey results, it shows that the reason why someone would join the organization is totally different in terms of why they would stay. So we've collected information from more than 4,500 respondents, and this is something that excites us. You know, think of it as your typical journey in life. As a fresh grad, relationships are very much important for you. As you become a professional with 2 to 5 years of experience, now you try to apply the skills that you have in the workplace, make sure that you can contribute effectively in the business as well. And this is also the time where you try to enhance your knowledge and abilities. And then next would be at the supervisor and managerial level. For them, they have shared that the reason why they joined their respective organization is because of the leadership opportunities available. That's number one. And then at an executive level, we now have company mission, vision, and values. So similar to what you guys have shared earlier. So I think we have a lot of top leaders over here because a lot of the leaders that we've worked with or executives have shared that the mission, vision, and values of an organization is very much important for them. So if you think about it, we essentially spend 1/3 of our lives at work, and this is the natural progression that we're seeing across the different facets of the employer branding survey that we've conducted. And then when we talk about some of the potential reason why employees leave, try to look at the bottom portion of the screen. For graduate levels, for graduate level, it's about growth and development. A lot of them have reported that growth and development within their respective organizations can still be improved. On the other end, we also have compensation and benefits for your professionals. So these are the candidates with more than 2 to 5 years of experience. And probably professionals would also be the ones who are taking up their masters. They're also the ones who are, I would say, trying to start a family probably, or trying to buy a new car or get a new house. So compensation and benefits for them is something that needs to be improved. And then next would be for supervisors and leaders. When we talk about your supervisors and leaders, a lot of them have shared that both performance management practices and HR policies needs to be enhanced. So these are some of the potential reasons that we're seeing why employees would typically leave across these segments. So now, as a reflection point, I would like for you guys to try to understand who are your target talents and how can you attract them better given these results. Or if, let's say, you're someone in OD or an HR leader across your business, try to check as well, where are you losing talents and what are the potential reasons why they are leaving your organization? Is it somehow aligned to what we're sharing now? So try to internalize these results and see how can this be applied for your upcoming strategies in the business. And then our main findings here is that there's so much work that needs to be done when we talk about understanding the needs of our talents, and it's continuously evolving. So hopefully the data that we've shared now is somehow helpful for you guys. So part of our survey also includes open-ended questions for us to understand some of the primary things that employees would use to describe why these values are important for them. So without influencing their responses, these are some of the things that they have shared. When we talk about fresh graduates, a lot of them have shared that work environment is very much important. 50% of all the fresh graduates who responded to our survey have mentioned that the relationships that they have at work, along with the support that they get and the support that they're able to give with their colleagues, is one of the primary drivers of their retention. That's number one. So somehow it supports our initial findings earlier about fresh grads, that work environment is very much important for them. And then on the next part would be, when we talk about professionals, those with 2 to 5 years of experience, a lot of them have been sharing that growth and development is very important for them. But when we've analyzed all of the qualitative outputs that they have shared, it all boils down to 3 things. First would be knowledge, skills, and the third one is actually somehow related with growth and development, mainly related with growth and development, which is really about promotion. So they want to make sure that before they join an organization, or one of the reasons why they stay within the business is these 3 areas: expanding their knowledge and skills, being able to contribute effectively at work, and then lastly would be being given a chance to lead their own teams and being promoted. And then lastly would be, we also have managers who have shared. In this case, 25% of the managers that responded to the survey have shared that a lot of them are motivated to give their best at work if they're given the opportunity as well to be seen as a great leader. So a lot of them are now aspiring leaders to transition from managerial roles to probably director, executive roles. So they want to have exposure around these areas as well. So more than being able to use their skills as a leader, they also want to make sure that they're seen as a good leader themselves. So 25% of them mentioned that being seen as a good leader is very much important for them. Now, When we talk about the top three things, so far what we're seeing would be growth and development, work environment for your fresh grads, and then leadership opportunities for your managers. So it's somehow connected with some of the things that we've shared earlier, except for Comp and Ben and mission, vision, and values. Now, we'll just take a quick break, and we have, a very short mind game for you guys. Numerical, and I would say your attention to details will be very important. But at the end of it, one participant will get a free book from our very own CEO, Ange Vera, Rethink Recruitment, Adopt a New Mindset to Attract Talent and Kickstart Your Employer Brand. So once I click next, or once I hit next, our quick break will take on already, or will proceed to the game already. And it's a very short activity, and then you can select your answer based on the options provided. So the first participant to share the right response or the correct answer would be able to get a free book from Ange Vera today. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. And then we'll share the options in the next part. So I'll give you guys like 30 seconds more to complete this. So again, the first person to share the correct response based on the options that we will be providing on the next slide would have a chance to win the free book from Ange Vera. So I'll click on next. So I'll give you 5 seconds, guys, to choose your response. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the correct answer is 100. So the tricky part here really lies at the bottom part of the page. So instead of 100, it's 50. And we will be announcing the winner later in our session today. Okay? So thank you for joining the quick break, guys. Now we head on to the next part. So the next question that we want to answer for you guys is, what channels do they use to apply? So this is something very important, not just for recruitment leaders or marketers, but also for the people who are trying to get the best talent. So you also want to make sure that your brand is available where your target talents are. So this is something that we will be talking about in the next few slides. So in this case, what we did was to ask more than 200 ASEAN leaders about where they normally put their investments in terms of hiring talents. So a lot of them have shared that when we talk about volume, job boards and employer referrals are the top choice in terms of the channels. And then when you compare that with the quality of candidates that they're getting, a lot of them have shared that both job boards and employer referrals are actually delivering in terms of results. So a lot of times, or a lot of the organizations that we've worked with in the past few years have already set employer referrals not as a strategic advantage, but as a standard practice, not just to fill the talent pipeline, but also to engage their existing employees. And then next, if you'd notice, guys, we also have LinkedIn and recruitment firms delivering higher qualified talents in comparison to the volume that it provides. In comparison to the volume that it provides. So when we talk about these two channels, we can recognize clearly that these are channels that are commonly used to hire managers and executives. And I would say it's a bit expensive coming from the feedback of our clients, but it continues to deliver in terms of qualified talents. And then our main observation here is that when we talk about all these channels, not one channel is the best. That's our theory actually here. Not one channel is the best. Employers need to be present across these channels so that they could help drive the pipeline of your talent attraction initiatives. And then next would be, we also ask active candidates about the typical channels that they use to apply. So a lot of them have shared that job boards is one. They also typically share emails to recruitment firms and emails to HR directly. A lot of them have also shared using LinkedIn, Facebook, and then in this case, we can also see that they ask a friend. They ask for referrals when we talk about talents who are actively looking for a job. And then next to this would also include some of the typical platforms that a lot of us are using, which would be your company website. So we're seeing this as a channel to attract talents as well. And this is a channel typically used not just by not just by marketers to promote their consumer brand, but also for recruiters to share what their culture is all about. And then for the next part, we also ask, passive candidates, those who are actually not looking for a job, what they normally use during their free time when we talk about social media or online. And a lot of them have shared that Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, you have YouTube as well, as some of the top channels where employers can also be present. And at the end of the day, we're actually competing for attention. So these are some of the channels where we can choose to be present, but a lot of times we're up against Netflix. We're up against, Shopee, Lazada. And I don't know if you guys would consider this as good news, but, in the Philippines, we belong to the top country when we talk about the number of time spent using social media, which is roughly around 4 to 5 hours on a daily basis. And I think that number has increased by at least 25% over the last 2 months, given the situation that we're in. So at the end of it, you all have two choices. First is spend more money, use paid ads. That's number one. And this is something that marketers would normally utilize as part of the tools that they use to promote their culture and brand. And then next, if you don't have a lot of budget, especially during this time, you can create organic content. You can use employees to be the voice of your brand. And all you need to do is create your employee value propositions, create programs that will allow you guys, or that will equip your employees to share the culture of your business. And later on, that's something that we will be talking about in detail in the next few slides. So again, as I've shared, we have a very quick homework for you guys, and I hope it will help jumpstart the creation of your employee value propositions so that you can use those effectively across these channels. So again, for talents who are not looking for a job, these are the typical things that they are using where you can also be present. And then lastly, this is something that we're going to share as well. Across the 200 HR leaders that we've talked with or that we've worked with, only 30% have shared that they already have an existing employee value proposition that they've cascaded across the organization. The other 70% doesn't have either have started already but haven't rolled out yet, or they've partially started but they haven't completed the whole process yet end to end, or the last 7% have mentioned that they haven't even completed the whole. They have not considered creating their EVPs. So in this case, there's an opportunity as well for you guys to create a sharper message and cut through the noise. So only 30%, guys. So on your end, there's a huge opportunity to differentiate yourselves against your competitors and at the same time engage your employees. Because if they don't know what to share, chances are they wouldn't be encouraged to share as well. So use your employees as your employee brand ambassadors to create organic content and make sure that they represent your brand as a business. And then in addition, more than 50% of HR leaders said that increasing their employer brand awareness and differentiating brand against competitors is a top priority even before the lockdown. But still, these are the effort that we have, and we consider this as an opportunity for you guys to make a better strategy to differentiate your brand against your competitors. And now we head on to the next. This is the next question for everyone. And I hope that you guys are slowly using or at least internalizing some of the results that I've shared for you guys to enhance your employee experience and your way to attract talents. So this is our next part. How do we build our EVPs, knowing that we're all working remotely? So we will be sharing our standard practice, and a lot of it can actually be done online. So some of our clients are still working closely with us, even if we're all working remotely. And I think that's no excuse for you as well to build a sharp message that would cut through the noise. Now, in terms of the typical reasons why, now, I've been, talking for roughly around 30 minutes already, and I'm very thirsty. I'm feeling very thirsty. So I have a very, very quick poll for everyone. What would you rather drink at this very moment? Coke or Pepsi? So I'll give you like 10 seconds to complete this. I'm checking as well the list of participants if someone is from Coke or Pepsi. So far we don't have any. So from a consumer standpoint, some of you might select Coke, some of you guys might select Pepsi, depending on your personal preference. Some of you might be thinking of water. So in this case, please hit the poll or select your option, and then we'll move on to the next question. So that's the first question. I just also want to make sure that you guys are still there. Next question, guys. So we'll change the question a bit. Who would you rather work for? So the first question is, what would you rather drink at this earlier? Now the next question is, who would you rather work for? Is it Coke or is it Pepsi? And we'll give you like 10 seconds again to decide. Who would you rather work for? So you guys have shared earlier, growth and development, compensation and benefits. You also shared mission, vision, and values, along with growth and development. So who do you guys think would have or would offer these things in their business? I'm drinking coffee, not Coke or Pepsi. So let's see the poll results. So 68% have shared that they would rather drink Coke over Pepsi. So we have 31% who share that they would, rather drink Pepsi over Coke. Now let's see. So we have, a 70-30 split between Coke and Pepsi. And let's see the next part. Who would you rather work for? It's still the same. Wow. So those who, I'm not sure if you guys have shared the same response, but apparently those who would drink Coke would also want to work for Coke. And those who have shared that they want to drink Pepsi at this very moment would also want to work for Pepsi themselves. So I'm not able to see who among you guys have selected Pepsi or Coke. But in this case, or my main point in asking this question is, our consumer brand actually has a direct impact to our employer brand. And it also goes the other way around. If the candidate experience isn't good, then chances are they wouldn't really subscribe to any of your products or services in the market. So that leads me to my next point. When we talk about employee value propositions, this is your promise to employees in exchange of great work. That's number one. So this is what employee value propositions are all about. Next would be employer brand. So when we talk about employer brand, what external talents think about it? So it's really about, if you if we put this in the typical scenario, if there are two strangers in the streets on the streets talking about a certain organization, what would they share? What would they talk about your business? Would they say that the culture is toxic in your organization, or would they share that, hey, it's a great place to work for? I'd be glad to, get your CV and submit it to our HR so I can share, because you'll have a blast working for this organization. So when we talk about employer brand is not meant to fix your culture, but it's meant to amplify what you have inside. So at the end of it, if you don't have your employee value propositions in place, or if you don't know who you want to be as an organization, then we wouldn't really recommend for you guys to activate or amplify your employer brand. So the first step really is all about building your employee value propositions to know why employees stay, why employees choose to join your business, and what you can do to make sure that you retain them. So these are the typical candidate touchpoint wheel. And this is something that we would recommend for you guys to take a look at. So after a session, you have a copy of the white paper. If you're gonna, work on an audit, try to check across these factors. Where are the potential areas that you need to improve on? And what is that you need to prioritize given that situation? So it's actually divided into three parts. You have attraction, engagement, and then retention. So attraction would be your brand ambassadors program, your job fairs, your career website. This is something that's designed to communicate to talents on a massive scale. So regardless if they're applying at the very comfort of their own homes, then this is something that they can reach out to or connect with. And then when we talk about engagement, this is the time where you can also use assessments, interview process, onboarding, and managerial interactions, which would normally happen one-to-one instead of one-to-many. And then lastly would be retention. There are so many facets around retention, but these are some of the things that we would really consider as a starting point of a conversation between different employees. So you have work environment. How is the culture like in the organization? You have rewards and compensation. How much is your salary? How much are you earning? Can you give me a range instead so that I can consider that place of work? And as I've shared, you don't need to be the highest in terms of offering compensation and benefits, but you need to make sure that you're competitive. Next would be rewards and recognition. Performance management, and then team building activities. What are the programs in place to help drive that culture inside out? So you want to make sure that when you join an organization, these are some of the things that employees would typically look for and talk about outside of work. And the challenge for all of the talent attraction team members would be to be recognized and to be a known brand. So coming from the survey that I've shared earlier, 50% or more than 50% of the HR leaders across the ASEAN region have shared that building their EVPs to differentiate themselves against competitors is one of the key priorities from their end. But in this case, this is one of the challenges as well. It takes 8 to 12 touch points for talents to remember your brand. And a touch point could either be negative or positive, but it would normally take this amount of touch points for them to, be registered in their memory. When we talk about touch points, here are some of the additional touch points that you can also utilize to increase your employer brand or to strengthen your employer brand. So you have videos. PruLife, one of our clients, would normally use videos as well to engage their target talents. And a lot of the things that they're normally doing would be around educating their community. So in their case, even if they're not hiring for a lot of talents, they continuously educate their community around the things that they stand for, which is about financial literacy. We also have Revisco. Revisco, one of our participants today. Hi guys, we're using your ads. So we also have paid ads, and this time it's really designed to share the culture of the business. A conversation with a friend, as I've shared, a conversation between two people or a group is also considered as a touch point. And then you also have news, regardless if it's positive or negative. If someone reads about your organization, then it can be considered as a touch point. So when we talk about the offline channels, we have newspaper, you have your billboards, you have your, some of the organizations that we've worked with would normally use transportation shuttles as well, where their materials are attached to it. So different channels, I would say, but these are some of the common touch points that we're seeing to be readily available across the market. Now, now we go to the meat of the discussion, guys. When we talk about building your employee value propositions, we normally recommend 5 steps for you guys. And the first step is really about understanding who you are as an organization. And this is what we call an audit. So the very question that you want to answer here is, who am I, or who are we as an organization, and how do we want to be known in the next 3 to 5 years? That's number one. Number two is to articulate, if you're going to be known for like 2 or 3 things, what would those components be, or what would those factors be? In this case, when we talk about building employee value propositions, less is actually more. So if you think about it, you're only going to be known for one thing: Apple for innovation, Starbucks for customer service and product quality, for example. You're going to be known for a very few things, so you might as well stand out for 1 or 2 things at the very most. So what are those EVPs in your case? Next would be, once you already know the answers for audit and articulate, the next step is to activate your brand. And as we always remind our clients, before you activate, make sure that everything you put in terms of content is authentic enough for everyone to believe. Because at the end of the day, if you're able to attract talents, and once they join the organization, it shows that the things that you've shared online is totally the opposite, then there's a huge chance that they will eventually leave. That's the last thing that we want to take place. And then next would be advocacy. So when we talk about practical guides in terms of engaging your talents, this is one of the key things that we normally work with different leaders. And then lastly would be assess. For some businesses, they start with this step. They want to assess where they are so that they can effectively create strategies that would allow them to define what are the typical things that they can measure to understand that they're now making progress in terms of developing their employer brand. Now, we're going to go through this one by one. And this is the part where I will be sharing your homework, guys. So I hope you can complete it. You can send me a message over LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to help you out. First part, guys, is the audit. So as I've shared, you can run your employer brand vision workshop with your executive leaders to understand what their plans are from an employer branding standpoint, and how do they want the organization to be known in the future. So those are some of the key questions that you want to get a hold of from your executives, knowing that they would normally set the direction of the business. And then after that, you can interview selected stakeholders to get more insights around the direction of the business. So your employer brand should also be anchored to your business direction. If we have one message here, then that's very much important for you guys to consider before you build your EVPs. And then we also talk about online social media activity audit. You also want to understand, what are your competitors doing? What are they doing right? And how can you differentiate your brand against your target competitors? And then lastly would be candidate experience audit. So for organizations who are, I would say processing a lot of talents on a daily basis, then this is very much important. How's the candidate experience like end to end? And how are they talking about your brand, regardless if they get hired or they get rejected in the whole end-to-end process? So these are some of the key things that we would recommend. But the very first thing that we would, that we would share with you guys is to answer those two key questions. Who are you guys as an organization, and how do you want to be known in the next 3 to 5 years? And you can also ask your executives, are there any organizations out there that inspires you that maybe we could use as a potential way to create a direction in terms of our employer brand? So that would, help you kickstart the discussion with them. And again, this is something that you can do at the very comfort of your own homes. Step 2 is to articulate. So once you already have the data in place, our next step is to identify what are the top 2 or 3 things that we will be sharing outside. So in this case, guys, we've already shared with you the things that target talents or external talents value the most across levels. So remember, guys, we have leadership, compensation and benefits, we have work environment, growth and development, and then for this year, we also talk about performance management. So these are some of the things that you could potentially consider as important for your target talents outside. Now, the next question is, you need to collect information inside to understand the employee experience. So some of the organizations out there would normally work closely with us to run surveys, to run our employer branding audits. You can do that. But in this case, if let's say you have engagement results, or let's say you check the pulse of the organization on a quarterly basis, then collect all those information and see where you guys stand out. So that would allow you to kickstart the employee experience inside and compare that effectively with what your target talents are looking for. So those are the steps. And that would allow you to, identify your top 3 EVPs leading to your creative concept. So in terms of teams, I would recommend for you guys to collaborate with your marketing teams or creative teams, because even if you're able to identify the EVPs, marketers, content developers, or content writers would normally be able to put that to life, or better, or they would be able to provide a better structure for your business. And then, of course, you also need to identify the reasons to believe, and which is something that we will be talking about in the next slide. So you can download this template, guys, for your reference. And if you want to kickstart developing your EVP. So the first two steps that we would recommend is for you to start with the employer branding audit. Identify who you are, where you want to be, what your executive members would say. That's number 1. Try to identify the business direction. That's going to be very important. And then number 2, once you already have the external information, you can download that at the bottom of the presenter screen. You already have the information from an external standpoint. What do your external talents normally look for before they join an organization? And have that combined with the employee experience inside. And after that, you need to take a creative break, or use your creative space in collaboration with your marketing team, or let's say with your creatives team, to develop and identify your hashtags, your company's tagline, along with the top 3 employee attributes, 2 to 3 employee attributes that you're going to focus on in the next 3 to 5 years. And then you also need to identify the reasons to believe. You need evidence to back it up. So if you tell candidates and your existing talents that you guys offer growth and development, then you need to identify what programs exactly would support that. And is this something unique to the organization, or are my competitors doing these programs as well? So in this case, the sample that we provided, in terms of growth and development, they have as simple as every 3 years, they have company functional rotation, where you can eventually take the lead across the business, and not just within the Philippines, but across the countries where they operate in. So these are some of the things that we could, that you guys can use as inspiration. We've completed a sample report for you guys, so you already know the things that you could write down. And then after that, the next step. So if you haven't downloaded the resources yet, please download so that you can start your journey in terms of building your EVPs. And then after that, guys, the next step is to activate. So once you already have the results in terms of your employer branding audit and your employee value propositions, your next step is to activate. Make sure that you can use the employee value propositions not just to attract talents, but also to engage your existing employees. This is one of the key strategies now being used by local and global organizations that we're working with to retain talents. So number 1, you need to create your employer brand guidelines. If let's say your organization is a person, how would he or she talk like? What are the usual messages that he will be sharing outside? And what is he going to stand for when we talk about your guidelines? And then from a practical perspective, for you to gain traction, and given that it would normally take 8 to 12 touch points, we would recommend for you to activate for at least 12 months. So someone needs to own this. Someone from your organization needs to own this. Paid ads management, very critical as well in terms of attracting potential talents in your organization. We also have content and graphics production. So on a monthly basis, you need to plan out the content and make sure that you have ownership across these areas. And then social media performance monitoring. Depending on the performance metrics that you want to measure, then these are some of the things that we would recommend for you to take a look at on a consistent basis. And then next would be advocate. We've done a lot of activations with different organizations, and a lot of them would be, and we're actually impressed with leaders who are highly involved. Because if the leaders are involved, chances are the employees themselves would also join the online conversation. So in this case, one of the biggest financial industries here in the Philippines um, reached out to us, and their very own president is a part of the content that they've produced. So can you imagine the impact of this their employees? But our main message is, if the leadership visibility is there, chances are employees would also follow and create that conversation online. So remember the options earlier that I've shared. You have paid and organic content. This is one of the ways for you guys to build organic content, organic conversation that doesn't cost so much, but allows you to spread your message across your target talents and engage your existing employees to join and do the same. And then lastly would be assess. For some organizations, we all have different goals. We have different objectives in terms of running our employee value propositions. But in this case, I would recommend for you guys to measure your net promoter score on a scale of 1 to 10. How would your employees rate you? Or on a scale of 1 to 10, how would candidates rate their experience during the recruitment process? That's number one. Number two would be referral rates. So if you don't have any referral rates in place, then this is something that you can track as well. More than just the number of referrals, you also want to track the participation rate. So if you have, let's say, 1,000 employees, how much percent of your employees are actually participating in your referral program? Next would be hiring manager satisfaction. So after you have rolled out your employee value propositions, what's the hiring manager satisfaction like pre and post? And then lastly would be engagement rates. Consistently, this is something that you guys probably measure, and this is something that I would recommend for you guys to take a look at, especially during this time. And so in summary, guys, we have 5 key steps. Understand who you are as an employer. Define your EVPs and the programs to support it. Activate channels based on your target talents. Build employee advocacy inside. Allow employees to create content. Equip them with the right messages as well. And then lastly would be set clear objectives and measure the results consistently. So any questions? We have a couple of questions here before we end. And it shows here that the first question would be, let me check. What kind of team is best to handle this initiative? So from our experience, we've worked with a lot of organizations. For them to create their EVP or employee value proposition successfully, we're seeing that number one, HR needs to be there. Human resources, organizational development leaders, talent management leaders. And number two, for this to be successful, we also need marketers to be available. So in our case, we've worked with a lot of organizations. Some of them would really focus on HR. Some of them are led by marketing departments. But in our case, from our experience, if we work closely both with HR and marketing, the chances of success is so much higher. So typical team members would be, I think we're getting a healthy mix. So more than just HR, recruitment, talent attraction, you also need someone from a content standpoint, graphic designers, along with creative experts to share your brand. So that's the typical, I would say, team structure to handle this. The next would be, we also have a question around what are the top of mind employee engagement programs during and right after the COVID-19 pandemic workplace disturbance? And some of the things that we're seeing now would be, first, a lot of the organizations out there, if you notice on LinkedIn, would have random coffee sessions. It doesn't cost anything. All you need to do is to assign employees to have a quick chat or quick break over coffee with their employees or with their colleagues, so that they feel that they are still at work, and they could take a break and talk about anything under the roof or the sun. But in essence, it doesn't cost anything. That's number one. And then we're also seeing a lot of workout programs. So we need to get moving, knowing that we're all working from home. Some of us have already lifted the ECQ. So some of us are now slowly allowed to move outside. But the past few days, in the past few weeks, we're seeing a lot of online workout programs with different employees and different leaders who are taking the front in this area. And then when we talk about, right after the pandemic, I am no expert, but I would recommend to follow some of the standard guidelines provided, not just by the government, but DOH themselves, when we talk about the return to work policies that we will be implementing in place. And then the last question here that we have would be like, how many months will it take for us to build our EVPs? It really depends on the composition of the team. That's number one. And then number two, it really depends on the availability of your team members. But what we're seeing at the very most, assuming that you will complete both the audit and articulate step, is roughly around a month or 2 months at the very most. But if, let's say, you already have the data for that and you just need to complete the quick activity that we will be leaving with you guys today, then I would say 2 to 3 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks at the very most would be your best bet. And then we also would like to congratulate Maricor Lucido, HR Manager of DNL, for responding to our quick mind game earlier. So congratulations. Winona and Anna will be reaching out to you guys or reaching out to Maricor to get your information. And then lastly would be, again, guys, I encourage you to complete the survey. Give me a 5 if you're feeling generous today. And make sure to complete the survey because we will be selecting 3 participants from the respondents that we have. And we will be asking for your details so we can deliver the book at the comfort of your own homes. So again, please make sure to complete the survey. And then download the webinar resources as well, which we will be sharing with you within 24 hours. Right at the bottom. And then lastly, guys, I encourage you to connect with me. All you need to do is take your mobile phone, take a screenshot of the barcode over here on using your LinkedIn, and feel free to connect with me. So if, let's say, you decide to complete the quick employee value proposition activity, hopefully with your marketing and creatives team members, shoot me a message. I'll be glad to give you some tips, more use cases, or even other case studies that we have to support your pursuit in building your employee value propositions. So please connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll be glad to continue this conversation. And get in touch with us as well. So click on the icon below, or you can visit Talent View Asia. With that, we end. Thank you guys for joining us today, and I hope you stay safe, and hopefully we get to see each other face to face. Enjoy your week. Goodbye.